We are all familiar with material things breaking, with projects that never turn out. It happens, more often than not, to every race in the galaxy. Except for humans. Well, this was a hyperbole. Material failure happens also to them, and yet if your ship has at least one human on board, the chances of such events are minuscule compared to normal. The rumor has it that they have magic. I always laughed at these. It was pure flippant nonsense. Even when the statistics were wiggly, even when my littermate swore up and down he saw a human enchant the engine, it had to be something logical. Magic never existed and never will. And yet, the rumors became louder with each ship that should have technically crashed, but didn't. They became louder with each weird-looking human contraption holding up seemingly on glue, and spite alone performing things indescribable. With every human who fought in some battle or skirmish and came out either nearly unscratched or dead, whose equipment refused to work for anyone else. And I started doubting myself. The news from reliable sources were making no sense. The statistics were aligning more and more into the how the actual fuck territory. My logical conclusion was to try and actually perform tests on humans. That turned out to be difficult, as the government was vehemently against any humans coming to my home planet. The second plan was to board on a majorly human shuttle as a researcher. The credits earned would have been a nice bonus to satisfy my curiosity. These shuttles are specific, to say at least. First of all, their home planet is a death world. And while they aren't the only death worlders in the Federation, their preferred living conditions are rather deadly to me. Thankfully, they are capable of living in ambience more suited to the needs of my kind, even if they tend to complain about the humidity and low gravity, although it's on the maximum level where I can still move semi-comfortably. The second, much more worrying thing, is the way these spaceships are constructed. By any logical means, they should collapse under their own weight, and yet these things withstand travelling at 78% of light speed, not to mention the wormholes. They come in the version without armour, the less how-the-fuck-inducing one, and the battleship version, the one that, when I first saw it, made all of my free brains buzz with static. It was clunky. It was heavy. It was covered in fucking metal plating. It had rifles sticking out from places rifles shouldn't stick out. It was abhorrent, terrifying, defying the fundamental laws of the universe. It was 100% human. And mind it, this was when I got convinced something was deeply wrong with humankind. And then a human ran out of the ship, and my thought process halted with a screech. I saw pictures of humans before arriving. Of course I did. But nothing could have prepared me for the absolute horror of an actual human moving. Limbs bending at awful angles that looked super painful and effortless at the same time. Eyes, little shining white orbs with a dark splotch of colour in the middle, darting around and turning in their sockets. Squishy looking skin undulating with every move. Voice reassembling a subsonic roar, mouth moving with every word. White, jagged pieces of bone peeking out. Only years and years of looking at the worst horrors the galaxy has to offer stopped me from returning my rations to the rock under my feet. But to saturate my curiosity, I have been known to do worse things than living with an eldritch being. 3 year fractions deep in our journey, I stopped having to shove down the urge to scream at the sight of a human. 6 fractions in, I started noticing them doing magic. Small things, just whispers, passing glances, stern words. Somebody petting the coffee maker. Someone hissing at a broken pipe to stay where it is. The head technician murmuring quiet words of endearment, practically courting the engine. The cooks humming at the food. The captain screaming obscenities at the control panel when it jammed. The things on the ship that listened. The things listened and did what the humans wanted. And that was when I realized that humans were doing magic. They had to. There was no other explanation. Or maybe it was something more. Because their bodies seemed to be magic itself. The way they moved, It shouldn't have worked in their preferred gravity, and yet somewhat it did. One day a stray thought whammed into me with the power of a Zorthrax battleship going full speed. What if the humans had more of the Big Bang in them? Just this little 0.5% of controlled chaos and creation in one. That would be fitting. They are humans, after all. All of the evidence points to the conclusion that they are something else.